Good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, sir.
So we're just going to hold on for more people to join in. We'll probably start at about 6:05.
All right, sir.
Good evening. I'm very good. Hmm? I've already done. Okay, we are almost there. It's just 2 minutes to 6 now. Uh, the goal is to start before 6:05. If we get a good number of participants in, we should be able to start at 6 o'clock. So let's just watch how the room fills up. For those of you who are live right now, can you please let me hear from you if you see my slides and if you hear me and see me correctly in your video. I would like to hear from a few people.
Good evening, Mr. Paul. Yes, we can see your slides and we can see you.
You can see your screen.
Super. Super. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you for the feedback. All right.
Yeah, we're good to go, Mr. Paul.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes, we are loud and clear. Thank you
Okay.
very much, Paul.
Thank you. So for those of us who have been here for the entire series starting in January, is there anybody here who started with us in January? So what about February? Who joined in from February and be consistent since?
Yeah, I think, Mr. Paul, I think I joined in late February, but I actually missed some classes. So,
Yeah.
but I've been consistent since the lockdown.
Okay, fantastic,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. Yes,
well
sir.
done. Same.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Paul.
So how's the experience been for you?
Whoa, Mr. Paul, I don't really know how I'm going to quantify the experience. It's been an eye opener, and I can assure you, part of what I've learned during the course, I've been able to as an apply it, and in fact, my boss is over the moon now. I think that the next step will be for me to I'm trying to put enter for the masterclass class. I think I'll be working towards the next the one that'll be coming up in September. I think I should be working towards that.
Super. Thank you so much.
It's been awesome, Mr. Paul. You don't want to imagine what you've done. You don't want to imagine. All I can say is thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank God for everything.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yes,
okay, that was a good one. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
That really helps when putting something like this together, trying to see if an impact is actually being made helps. It's encouraging. Thank you for that. So I'll just give 30 seconds more and we'll start.
And sorry, Mr. Paul.
Yes.
Just a hint. My because I actually told my boss that I've been attending this training. I probably because of our discussion, he, he's actually talking to someone who wants to invest in our business, and he's already telling that person that my staff is already is taking a facility management training. You know, for him to have been able to tell a prospective investor that, you understand. So that shows the level of impact that you've made as in over this period of time. Yes.
Very good. Very good.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes.
That's very,
Yes. And thank you
very
so much,
cheering
sir.
news. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Cool.
Good evening.
Good evening, Kalawale. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, fine. I was quite surprised when you said some people started to January. In the sense that the adverts I saw started in May, so I didn't even know that some. But since the time I joined since May, I've not missed a class. I've
Super.
been following.
You've been consistent. Very good. Very good. Welcome.
So,
Okay, 6:05. I'm going to just mute everybody now, and then I'll start the presentation. By the time it is 6:55, 6:45 to 6:55, I'll complete my presentation, and then we'll have a robust discussion for about 15 minutes. Okay. All right. Okay, so today we want to look at facility management, procurement, life cycle. We're going to look at the entire process of acquiring a new facility, and then we want to examine the facility manager's role, or the role of facility management in the entire process of acquisition of properties. Typically, this requirement for this training was brought about by the fact that FMs have all kinds of issues. We have properties being delivered to us, or we're being called in to manage facilities after everything has been prepared. And we will begin to meet issues like the building not being suitable or suited for the services that is required by the client or the users. You have all kinds of defects to deal with from when you are taking over a brand new facility. You have, all kinds of post-occupancy lapses that, they don't give the best results to the building users. Plus the fact that you begin to encounter operations and maintenance costs and extreme, other exigencies that could have been avoided during the earlier stages if a facility management mindset was adopted from the onset. So today we're going to look at, all of that proactive approach to delivering new projects, new contracts, new construction with the mindset of facility manager, and what kind of role does facility management play in the entire process from planning to delivery and use of the facility. Okay, so my name is Paul Erubami. I am a facility management consultant, experienced in delivering facility management operations and strategy over the last 25 years. What I've been doing is leading Max-Migold Limited. Max-Migold Limited is a facility management company that manages for organizations, a specialist in energy efficiency and cost reduction. We're representative of the British energy saving technology in Nigeria. And we also provide other technologies like software for managing facilities, as well as now we are fully into the building information modeling process, where we help organizations, construction companies, and developers to use BIM to collaborate all through the life cycle of property development onto FM, so that there'll be as much data as possible available for the management of the facility and reducing costs. So if you have any challenge regarding any of your facility management issues, just call on us for a free survey. Max-Migold will provide a free survey, give you a proposal that gives you ideas on what we can do to solve your problems, and then we can collaborate on the solution together. Currently, Max-Migold is the leader in facility management training in Nigeria. We are technical partners to the professional bodies in developing facility management content, and we deliver, the comprehensive facility management diploma program. The current batch of the facility management diploma program is the 9th in the series. Started just 2 weeks ago, and with about 30 people in the class, 100% virtual. The next batch is going to come up start on the 8th of September. The expectation is that we should expect the pandemic to have abated. So if the pandemic has fully abated by September 8th, we expect to have a dual approach to the classwork, where we have some people come to the training center and others stay on Zoom to participate in the class. Okay. What we are doing this is to create as much flexibility as possible, so that we will not have any excuse for not taking the opportunity to elevate your career and advance yourself professionally. So in that light too, we've also created flexible payment arrangements, where those who are registered for the class now, or those who are intending to register for the class, go ahead and register now and start making payments instrumentally towards September 8th. If you start making your instrumental payments and you are able to complete before the 8th of September, you get a 26,500 naira discount, which is a 10% off the tuition fee for you. And then for those who come from the same organization, up to 3-4 people, 5 people from the same organization, you all get a 20% discount on your fees if you do come together as a group from the same organization in the FM Mastercraft Diploma. What we have put together in that program is simply mind-blowing. Many people come to the free classes. We hear some of the testimonies today, and you're out by the kind of content, the kind of delivery, the kind of practical skills, ideas that can help you change the way you reason, the way you do things, the way you plan proactively, and the way you execute your job. Just helps you elevate your level of excellence. But when you come to the FM Mastercraft Diploma, in fact, every class will be a wow class. And imagine wow every time for 33 classes. That's exactly the kind of experience we give. And that's why we have still been on since 2017 for the 4th year, running in the 9th and then going to the 10th series starting on September 8th. So we encourage everybody to join, take part, invite others to also take advantage of the FM Mastercraft Diploma. It's all that we are throwing in there. We are not saying just learn about maintenance, just learn about operation, just learn about strategy, just learn about the things that you would expect your bosses to know. We are dropping everything for you. The things that people who have received certifications, who have had master's degrees, who have covered all the knowledge in FM, we've packaged everything that you need to excel into that program. It's never been done anywhere in Africa, and this is the first time, and we don't want anybody to miss out. And people who have been part of the program in the past have virtually skyrocketed their careers. Somebody who's just new in FM, changing jobs in 3 years, 2-3 times, and every time it's a 50K added for the new opportunity they move into, and that's tremendous kind of progress. And you get testimonials from employers about how good their employees are, how strategically minded, and how proactive they are now in delivering results. So if you're an employer and you are here, don't spare the naira. Don't spare the naira. It is absolutely valuable. If you've been paying salaries every month for years, this is the first time you begin to get value from the salaries you've been paying, because now you have employees that really, really, really know how to deliver value and excel themselves and give you value as an employer, as an organization. So down to the way our programs run, the FM Mastercraft Diploma is one I've just talked about. For today's class, if you go through the class, take notes, write down your questions at the end of the class today, you'll be given an opportunity to ask your questions or make your comments as part of the class. For those who want to receive the slide that we've used on the class, all you need to do is just send 3 outline explanations of what you've learned, 3 lessons learned explained briefly by WhatsApp to our official number 080-220-20122. That's the Max-Migold official number, 080-220-20122. The numbers you see on this slide are actually my numbers, so you can use these numbers to reach me on WhatsApp when you have a consulting brief, when you have a problem you want me to help you with, or when you have a project you want us to bid for, because Max-Migold does all kinds of maintenance, especially on the area of electrical and energy efficiency, and all of those things that will help your facilities to be very effective and run well. Okay, so you can use any of these numbers to chat me up on WhatsApp. Even when you have issues with your personal career decision making, don't relent. Go ahead and chat me up with these numbers. Okay. So today we're looking at the facility management procurement life cycle. A typical facility, take an example of a corporate headquarters building. You would expect that there's a life cycle, there's a useful life expected of every building. No building, no facility, no construction, no engineering feat in the world is designed to last in perpetuity. None can be eternal. Everything on earth has their start date and an end date. There's a cradle and there's a grave point for every facility. Okay, so we typically will say 55 to 60 to 70 to 80 years. Okay, is a useful life. So what goes into a facility? What goes into a facility is what we're looking at in this particular slide. When you consider all that money that goes into it at the beginning, where you say, oh, we've done a nice design, we're building a 20-story high-rise building, for example, is going to have 40,000 square meters. It's going to seat about 1,500 employees. We're going to have conference centers. We're going to have parking lots. We're going to have, meeting rooms, breakouts rooms, and kitchens and all whatnot. Now, that facility may cost a lot. Major facilities nowadays are running in the realm of billions. So everywhere from 1 billion to 150, 200, 300 billion. That's what major complexes cost today in terms of their design and construction costs, right? But if you just look at this chart, you realize something. All of that money that has been invested, that capital investment in that property, will only amount to 10% of the projected life cycle costs of that facility. 10%. So just imagine a construction that costs 10 billion, for example. 10 billion to deliver that mall that you're now managing, right? Now, that 10 billion representing just 10% of the life cycle cost automatically implies that in 50, 60, 100 years, depending on the strength of the structural materials used in that facility, you will still need to spend another 90 billion just to keep it running, keep getting value from it, and keep it maintained and retained in terms of asset value and keep it running, okay? 28% of that 90% is for capital renewal costs, and then operations and maintenance costs, which comprises all the salaries of people who work in those in that facility throughout its useful life, includes all the energy that will be consumed, diesel, electricity at all costs, all the maintenance and operations related costs for that facility will be 62%. Now, the reason this particular chart is significant is that as we develop facilities, let's begin to make decisions that will impact reduce costs for O&M and capital renewal, instead of just reduce costs for the initial investment. We have seen situations where we actually have costs reduced, avoided, technologies not deployed, systems and materials that could have been durable, overlooked at the installation or at the investment stage, only to have to pay it forward in multiple scale over the years. You have to do expensive replacement, expensive reconstruction, expensive operations and maintenance, access and maintainability issues that will crop up later, just because you save that effort. So the whole idea here is think life cycle. Okay, so if you are working for an organization, for example, and you are not in the decision making opportunity where you can actually influence decisions regarding what to do, how the design should proceed, what considerations should be given for the various activities that are going to take place in that facility in terms of materials, labor, all that deployment in that facility. Then you should carefully work your way to that point where management can listen, management can hear, management can see value in what you are delivering or telling them. Because if you are not on the table when decisions are being made, you will be the scapegoat eventually when wrong decisions have been made and people are now expecting you to work magic. I mean, FMs are actually expected to work magic when you take over some facilities. Facilities have been deployed in such, shabby formats, in such terrible construction methods with very, very bad results. And then you are told, are you not the FM? Why can't you deal with it? Why can't you take care of it? So what we are doing here today is, okay, so nobody will listen to you. Nobody will give you the chance to actually come in and say one or two things when it comes to things that will prevent future issues in projects. But if you elevate yourself, if you start thinking productively in such a way that management begins to depend on you for advanced thought patterns, futuristic approach to things, being proactive, risk analysis that makes sense in terms of the kind of impact you want to make. If you start in that regard, there's chances that you will get a chance to say one or two things that will help the organization to save those funds, those disruptive situations that you may come across in the future. So the point I'm making here is, ladies and gentlemen, you may not be there, okay, when decisions about design and construction are being made. But with the knowledge you are going to have now, you will find ways to work like an insurgent in your organization, where you come up with ideas, where you come up with solutions that will make your voice heard, okay? So what does the building typically go through in life cycle? Starts by going through the planning stage. What happens in the planning stage for any facility or building? It starts with what problem do we want to solve? What need is there to fulfill? What opportunities are there to take advantages of? These are the kind of things that investors, owners want answers for. These are the reasons for the existence or for the thought in the first place for us to have a new facility. So during the planning stage, you typically make decisions as to location, size of property, zoning and ordinance issues, a typical type of buildings that can fit into there in terms of building heights, in terms of access to infrastructure, in terms of customer access and customer use of the facility. All of those long-term, high-level decisions are made at planning. At the end of planning, the owner would typically come up with what we call a brief. A brief is all that you have in mind regarding what you want as an owner. It is from this brief you sit down with an architect, sit down with a design team, a project team, an engineering team to say, I want to develop an airport, I want to develop a university campus, I want to build a school, I want to build a mall, I want to put up an open market. All of these ideas that have been decided, worked through the planning stage, are now translated into design by the design team. In an iterative process, they will go over the items one after the other and create, solutions. They'll create something like an outline of spaces and relationship between these spaces that the owner can say, okay, fine, the spaces are okay, the way they flow, the functionality of that space, who will be here, who will be there, how will they relate with one another. Those are all done in design. And then design helps to not only show us spatial relationships, it also helps to give a kind of visibility. It brings like a visual representation of the whole dream that was dreamed during the planning stage. Okay, so the design team basically brings it to life in a digital format, in an analog format, but that building is still not existing on ground yet. But at least you can see, you can be walked through it. And in this day and age of 3D modeling and being, definitely you can actually live in it virtually, just like those of us, those of you who know how to play computer games, you can live in other virtual environments. You can now live in such virtual environments or experience such virtual environments with modern design. As long as design is done, everything is now clear. How the materials are going to fit. Part of design really is not just visualization of the whole project. All of those things that have to do with material schedules and costing, all of those things that have to do with structural and engineering layouts and designs, all of them come in there. So by the end of design, you have a set of contractual documents that will be acted upon to bring about the existence of that facility. By the time you get to construction, you're basically translating from paper electronic medium whatever has been decided and actions to bring them to reality. So everywhere from foundation to final decoration are all part of what you do in the construction stage. After construction, it's expected that there is a testing period. What testing does is basically check that the various systems, the various components, the various structural elements will work. Okay, they will work. So on, off, it works. That's testing. And then you record all the testing parameters. Testing is not just about I've seen it works. No, you need to record what you're observing, because for every MEP equipment, mechanical, electrical, plumbing equipment, for example, there are already parameters that design and planning has already taken decisions on. So by the time you now construct it, you need to test that those parameters are being met. Elevators, air conditioning system, lights, all of those numbers, you're able to test to be sure that yes, these numbers are being met. If there are gaps, you indicate them in the testing kit. Testing is similar to what you do when you go and do a lab test because you're feeling some symptoms of malaria. And then they have all of those different tests they will prescribe. And when the test result is brought in, you will see different parameters that were checked. There will be normal ranges indicated, and then your actual results will be indicated. So that when you compare your actual results with the normal range expected, they will now make an interpretation or a diagnosis of what could be the problem. That's typically what testing is in development cycle. And then you go on to the commissioning, process. Commissioning is different from testing, and this is what many people often get wrong. Commissioning is a process for checking for adequacy of a design. While testing actually tests for functionality that it works, commissioning is a process of checking for adequacy. So you're actually going to say a space that has been designed for 40 people, and those 40 people are supposed to be able to dance and not faint in that space, for example, that they can actually do that kind of function there. If you have a stairwell and the stairwell is supposed to evacuate some 3,000 people in a 10-second or 20-second time frame, for example, yes, then definitely that stairwell should be able to. If you have a generating system that should be able to power a 385 kilowatts rated load rating, for example, then yes, that system, so the difference between checking that the gen works and it brings out light at all, and checking that the gen can carry 385 kilowatts adequacy in terms of design is the difference between testing and commissioning, and their documentation for the processes. So as you are doing commissioning, you're also documenting that it can meet the requirements for its plan and design requirement. Now, so because most buildings may not be occupied from the onset to 100% or to 80% or any reasonable percentage to do live commissioning, we normally settle for testing that things work, right? Now, that does not mean that commissioning should not happen. So even if as a facility manager, you are brought in to take over a facility that has been tested, documentations for testing have been provided for you, you must continually document commissioning data on an ongoing basis, so that as the building gets occupied, increasing occupancy of that building, you are taking certain commissioning data that helps to confirm that that building was delivered to meet the requirements that were specified from the onset. For some other mechanical equipment like generator that I just talked about, a load bank can be used to mimic full occupancy and test that the gen actually can deliver the requirement. A few other assets can be done electronically or mechanically to show that yes, the commissioning has been done. Otherwise, commissioning becomes an FM function. Okay, so don't get this twisted. It's very important that FMs understand this, so you know your role in the ongoing commissioning process. For some construction, since the FM is the one doing the occupancy and moving people into the building, they will have a different liability period where you have the construction company still on ground. They probably have some snags they are still trying to sort through. And during this process, you can actually work with them to continue the commissioning process until they have verified that everything is adequate as designed. And then the facility is handed over to the facility manager. When the facility is being handed over to the facility manager, be careful. A common trend is a bunch of keys being given to you and then some pictures to show that there's been a handover. Handover is actually a documentation process. I see the building does not mean that I know what you are giving me. You give me a key, a set of keys to go into the building, does not mean that you have handed over. You have not done anything like handover. Handover is actually a series of documentation. We're going to talk about them as we go on. A series of documentation, okay? The layout, the plan, they has built plans for all of the trades, electrical, mechanical, structural, architectural, all of them. And then there's the O&M manuals. There's so much documentation that goes into handover. So all those, they've just handed over to us. And then I'm asking you, what were you handed over to? A set of keys, pictures taking, celebration? No, that's not handover. Handover is an outline of documentation that actually shows that I can take the building in my hand. I now have the building delivered to me in my hand. The physical building is there. Fantastic, well done, thanks for delivering that. But handover really means that you now give me a documentation that represents all the details of what was put into that building. So I can flip through, I can go through, I can now say, yes, I now understand this building. I can say I have been handed over a building to manage, okay? So please pay attention to this as facility managers. And then I take over the operations and maintenance, facility management, all of the things that I need to operate and run the place. And over time, of course, everything has its useful life. The facility gets to a point where I need to make a decision and advise the owners and developers to say, okay, so I think it's getting to time when this facility needs to be retired. And that will come from continuous condition assessments and condition index monitoring. You must keep monitoring the condition index, condition assessments on an annual basis, so that you get to the point where you use the useful life and compare to the condition of the facility at the moment, and you look at exactly what the FCI really does is what additional costs you keep spending on an annual basis into that facility to keep it running. I may tell you the point where FCI is no longer feasible or useful for a continuous running. Let's go ahead and get rid of that property and start afresh. So basically, this is a breakdown of all I've been talking about. You design, construct, you operate, you repair, you maintain, you upgrade, and you retire. So basically, you take every building, every asset that you have, whether it's a building, whether it's a campus, whether it's a portfolio of multiple sites, whether it's one equipment or a component of one equipment, they all will pass through similar considerations or similar process. So what typically happens? What typically happens in the building life cycle is what I want us to really talk about today. Because what typically happens is that the facility manager will get called in just at the time when the building has been done, has been delivered, and then they call you to come and take it over, and then go ahead and manage it. Okay, that's where we have most of our problem that I would like us to discuss in today's class, so that we can learn some ways we can participate in the process and learn some ways we can get a better deal for ourselves as facility managers. So I've taken you through that process, right? And that process will take you through design, build, commission. It has been run as a waterfall model, okay, so you wait, you are the FM, we will deliver the building to you, just wait. The design team will do their thing on their own. The building team, the construction team will do their own thing on their own. Now, the building team probably will talk to design guys because they will seek all kinds of clarification and all kinds of things, right? But then the commissioning team are almost like the inspectors who come to inspect the building team to say, did you guys do it well or not, right? They will come and do their own thing on their own, and then they look for the FM to take the last bit, okay? And that is what we in this class are trying to pay attention to and fix, because if we can't fix it now, we are going to continue to have the kind of problems we've always had with the buildings that we are managing. How do we fix it? We need to look at what happens at every phase. The planning phase, the design phase, the construction phase, the testing phase, the commissioning phase, the handover phase, and the facility management phase. Look at the various teams who are in charge of the various phases, and ask ourselves, at what point should the facility management team get involved? At what point should the facility management team get involved? If we even know when the facility management team should get involved, what role should the facility management team be playing in an earlier stage before facility management? So let's look at these phases. The planning stage is driven by the planning team, and the planning team is basically the owner, investors, planners, developers. These are the transaction level where you look at an asset as an investment, and you ask yourself what you want to do with that investment and all of that, right? So big picture decisions are made at the planning stage. Now, so the main drivers are those who own the property, but they will consult with the design team, they will consult with the construction team, and they also need to consult with the FM team. Very key, very critical that they're able to consult with all of these teams at this level, because if they don't, they may end up prescribing something that they want that cannot be built. I want a house that looks like an aeroplane. Okay, that's a good plan. After all, we know you're an aviation specialist, so you must have a house that looks like an aeroplane, right? So everybody knows that you are the owner of this house. No problem. But if you want the house to actually be suspended on wheels, right? We'll have to ask the guys who will design and the guys who will construct to see the possibility of that happening, right? So those are the kind of things we're talking about here. So planners, yes, you're driving your own, but then you need to consult others. Now, what about the FMs? The FM will have to think, okay, so this building will be occupied by people, and those people will function in this and that capacities and this area and that area. And these are the kind of activities that will take place in the facilities. These are the kind of maintenance we will do. These are the kind of operations we will do. How feasible will it be? How easy or realistic will it be that we can perform this function, and the people who are going to be using those spaces are going to be able to get such value or such use from those spaces? Now, that is what moderates the planning consideration. And then that happens again for the design. The construction team is involved, the FM team is involved. During construction, they still also need to talk to the planning team because there will be some things, some changes that needs to happen that you have to get back to the owner for approval, okay? And then the design team will have to redo certain parts of the drawings, if not the entire drawing, when they get to certain obstacles or certain changes during design stage. So during construction stage, so design team will have to be called in. And then what about the FM? These FMs are the ones that are going to be in charge of maintenance in the future. They also need to be called in because something happens during construction. The construction team, they tend to want to solve their own problem at that time. They want to get out of the site as quickly as possible, spend the least amount of money, and do the scope and quality that is convenient at that time. If there's no input about the changes that take place during the construction phase from the person who is going to manage and operate it into the future, boom, you are going to have a disaster waiting. And then during the testing phase, the FM needs to be there. In fact, at this point, the FM is already gearing up for taking over, okay? So you are testing, you are fulfilling to him, you are confirming to him that what was prescribed, what was designed, what was planned is actually being built. If there are gaps, he needs to know the gaps now, because if you don't show him all of these gaps now, when he does his commission assessment, he will still bring them up in terms of defects. They will automatically become defects. All changes need to be communicated at this stage. And then you get to the commissioning team, still being done by the construction organization or team. They do commissioning, and then the FM needs to also be there because you're going to be the one to manage, okay, a nightclub, people come in to dance, they do all kinds of stuff. You have to understand that activity vis-a-vis what's being built so you can know exactly whether the flow will work. That's what you decided, all the input was at the planning and design stage. But at the commissioning stage, you're beginning to ask things like, heat generation. They're going to talk about things like security. They're going to talk about, a lot of things that goes on in that space to be sure that the numbers will be right for you to manage as an FM. And then the handover is all about documentation. What documents are available? What are the gaps? What do we need to do? Because if documentation is not provided and given to you well during your handing over process, you will now be required to reverse engineer the process. I've seen many buildings where you can't find the architects or the planners and the designers and the construction teams anymore, and the FM needs to make decisions about certain things in the building, especially the area of maintenance, reconstruction, or repairs. You now need to actually go ahead and measure and draw and write and quantify by yourself. Otherwise, you won't have anything to do your scoping based on. You'll be working from the dark. And then when you start doing your FM, of course, through the period of different liability, through the period of warranty, you need to have the construction, design, and planning teams on ground. At some point, all of these teams will eventually leave you alone to your fate as a facility manager. So the longer you can drag them, the better. The longer you can have them as part of your experience, so you can get solutions before they go too far, and they keep their contact on an ongoing basis. But the question that people often ask, if I get an FM consultant in to my development or into my project, what will he be doing in all of these stages? And that's what is very key for us to discuss. The facility management team, consultant, in-house facility manager, external contracted facility management company, whoever is representing facility management in a project represents not just the owner's interest, but the building user's interest. If the building users are happy with the space, the owner will get returns very quickly. So it's not in conflict, these two interests, but the FM actually stands for these two interests in the process, because everybody involved in projects are short-term, they get done and they're out. Okay, so those who are going to live with it are the owner, the users, and you, the FM, who is going to help to make sure they continue to get value. So what do you do at the design stage? You review the owner's project requirements and basis of design documentation for clarity and completeness. You monitor commissioning teams. Now, mind the commissioning team should be set up from the onset. I've seen too many big projects where you have commissioning teams being arranged and organized at the end. basically to come and do all of those tests and checks. Make sure that quality assurance, which is done by commissioning team, starts at the onset of construction. Make sure that these are in place, and make sure that all the pre-mob meetings are held. Participate in quality management and commissioning meetings. Perform focused reviews of the design, drawings and specifications at various stages. Now, when they do designs at the initial stage, you should be able to review the design and ask pertinent questions. Many vast, huge facilities with requirements for you to put staff on ground to run 24 hours don't even have facilities for those staff to be on site. I've been on a site where a massive high-rise building that requires security 24 hours is closed by 6 p.m. in the evening, open again by 8 a.m. in the morning or 7 a.m. in the morning, and does not have a place where security guards can use the toilets overnight, does not have a changing room, does not have any of those facilities. And you say, oh, well, contractors bring in 24 security guards to guard this place. What are they going to be doing overnight? And in some places, you have maintenance crews who don't have a place to change, have showers, and do things. And then you don't even have access to certain maintenance areas that have been closed up and sealed in. They'll tell you this is going to be grass area, but you have a lot of utilities and infrastructure built on the ground and grass over the whole place. And then you're expected to open up that every now and then to see what's going on. So design review is very key. Maintainability issues, operational issues, and all of those things, you bring them up during the design stage. And then you, of course, design normally will be back and forth. The owner will keep looking at the design. When designers, architects bring it, you need to check all those and then ensure that all quality assurance and commissioning specifications are adequately provided for. This is a big problem for many construction. They don't provide for those line items that bind the contractor to deliver quality assurance. What they basically just do is, assume that the contractor understands that he should do certain things, to give them certain information, to make certain documentation available, forgetting that those documentations and those things we're talking about will actually cost money. Of course, they will cost money. No contractor will sit down and put people on ground to be measuring and writing and drawing up things and paying them when you have not factored that they, the contractor, will be paid for such efforts. So they'll just end up being and say, you give me a job for building I built. Don't, if you didn't pay me for documentation, no, sorry, I can't give you documentation. Building is already there. That becomes a big issue. So the FM's job is to ensure that his own requirements at the end are built into the contract so that that line item is enforced. They now know that when there's a change during a review meeting, during a site meeting, they make a change for a certain material, for example, they will now need to go back to the BOQ, update it, they go back to the drawings, update it, so that what you get at the end will be fully meet the requirement, or will fully describe what you have on ground as facility manager, because if you don't take care of that, you won't get it. And then there's the process of value engineering that goes on throughout the project. All kinds of changes will crop up, and the engineers and project teams will want to just make whatever is convenient and conducive for them. It's your job to be part of that process, so you can make your own input as well during design. This is all you are doing even before the building is constructed, though. The process or procedure for operational readiness, all of those documentation I talked about in handover, you have to make sure those ones are designed now during design stage, because when you move from design to construction, there's contracting that takes place in between there, and that contracting is where everything that will be done will be itemized and payments will be planned for them and quoted for. If you don't have your own handover, commissioning, testing, documentation built in there, and all the other warranties that are coming, you will cry later, and that's what we're trying to avoid. During construction stage, all of those quality assurance activities, it's your job to monitor them. The main contractor is the one delivering it, but you are working to ensure that the construction takes care of quality assurance. And then all the phase commissioning plans, because when you have a construction going on, at different phases, there's already commissioning certain deliverables as they go on. Don't wait till the end. All those plans should be monitored by you at those points. And then site visits and inspections to observe system construction and installations. some work methods will change on site. You will not even know. The drawings and the BOQs and the specification document say one thing and they are doing something else on site. Okay, so if they hand over those documents that says as designed to you later, you won't know what was actually built or what methods were actually used. So you need to have your eyes, especially on change orders. All of those, this cannot be done, this is not the market, let's change it. Be conscious because it will come back to haunt you, okay? And then commissioning records. It's your job to start compiling all the commissioning records. All the gaps analysis between what was designed and planned and what was built, you start putting them together. And then all the issues that came up during the construction, you know, some issues will come up and nobody will record it. Nobody will take it as anything serious during construction. It's during operations and maintenance, even years later, those issues that were probably glossed over, buried under walls and underground and stuff like that can come back to haunt you in managing the facilities. Issues should be monitored, okay? Oversee the training of people that will come to manage the site. A construction company is not too keen on training the FM team, but it is their responsibility. So that job of training, which is basically showing them the systems that have been built in, showing them the operations, showing them diagnosis, showing them issues that they can encounter as part of the operations and maintenance. It's not a good idea to tell the construction company, leave some people behind for me to run this facility. No, that's not a good idea. Let them finish building and go on to build something else. It's not their job to operate a facility. It is their job to ensure that those who operate the facilities understand the nitty-gritty of every asset, every equipment, every component that has been built into the space. It is your job as a facility management consultant or facility manager in the organization or contracted or in-house to make sure that this training takes place. And then there are operations and maintenance manuals from the construction that you need to take, make sure that they are complete. Many times you will see an air conditioning system, a HVAC system or chiller system installed for you, and all they will drop for you is the booklet that came from the manufacturer. That is not a complete O&M manual for that system, because that system, when it came into the site, they had to run ducts and piping and hoses and all kinds of things, electrical lines in the building. All of those as built designs, all that layout need to form part of the O&M manual, because of course there are so many components that they will bring together from different areas. The insulation for the ducting system, for example, may not be provided or supplied by the same manufacturer of the main air handling units or the chiller units out there. You may take a different piping, you may take different indoor units, vents. All of those ones will come with different requirements for their maintenance and operation. So you must make sure that the O&M manuals are complete as a facility manager at this stage. After construction is done, you present the client in supervising required actions during deferred liability. You know that during deferred liability, this is the period where the construction team will say, we have finished working. The owner says, I'm holding a certain retention, a certain amount, a 5% or a 3% or 6%, whatever the contract says, to see if this building will not have defects popping up, you know, within the first 6 months or the first 1 year, depending on the contract as well. It is the facility management team that should monitor this process. In fact, your job during this period is 50% condition assessment on an ongoing basis and 50% operations and maintenance. The reason is that you must be able to unearth anything that will be a manufacturer or a construction defect. Don't allow this period be a sleeping period where they would have finished doing their job and then you calm down because it's not fully occupied. You leave it, it expires, they've been paid and they are gone, and then you're not sitting, you know, falling apart when your capacity starts going up. No, you should pay attention to this period, because a lot of the value that that owner or developer has paid for that construction, it is during this period you will lose it. Because if they are gone, okay? And then you start looking at the FM team to come and manage the site. Of course, before now, you've already started thinking of the kind of team you put together, okay? So you start putting a bid process, a work specification, scoping of the type of work that will be done, you know, service level agreement, because now you're having the customer's input. in the SLA and you're designing an SLA for the service providers, you're looking at the warranty documentation. This is very key. Many facilities are delivered without proper warranty documentation. Now, warranty documentation includes certain clauses that can nullify the warranty. As an FM team on ground that has been part of this process, at this point, you must understand and memorize all those clauses and terms, so you don't make any mistake that will nullify the warranty that you have in the building. And then identify and solve concerns or problems with operating the building as originally intended, make suggestions for improving the building, and also those suggestions will also follow the construction team. Maybe they are the same, building another facility for the same owner, same organization. So there will be a lot of lessons learned which you would have gathered during this period. This is the same period where you do what we call a post-construction, post-occupancy survey. You ask people what their experiences are as they move into the facility, what are the challenges they're having, what they would have preferred to see that they are not seeing. Of course, we expect that during design and planning, there was some programming done where you have asked the users, potential users or prospective users, what they would like to see. You now use that pre-planning and design programming data to now do a new survey and compare and see if the users are now able to confirm that they are seeing what their expectations should be. Okay, and then FM startup information requirements, some basic things you must have on ground as you take over the facilities. All the vendors that worked on the ground, you should have, their details, their contact details, so that when anything goes wrong, you give them the right of first refusal, basically, because they are the closest in understanding what you have on ground. The contacts, the contracts that were used. So all those bill of quantities, all the proposals, all those prices and costs, you need to have them all, so that when you are making your own budget, for example, you have enough information. If this tap breaks, how much should I budget for it? They bought it for 58,000 during the construction, so I can budget maybe 59 or 60,000 as my budget, just in case it breaks in the first year. If it goes beyond that, I probably have some inflation adjustment to put in my future replacement costs if it does break later, and all that and all that. So you get that information. Financial data, utility bills for buildings are already existent, accounting requirements, IT requirements, organization charts of those who are coming to use it, so you know who is senior, who is relative to others in the organization, and all kinds of. So all of these are things that you as a facility manager should look out to have on hand. When somebody says, I've handed over a building to you, whether brand new or whether old, these are some of the things that you must have in it as a facility manager, okay? So think about it, equipment list, maintenance records, building rules and regulations, permits, key contacts, emergency numbers, incident reporting procedures, all the things that you need to actually manage a facility. These are the kind of questions that when you ask them, people will know that you have an idea about facility management. People will know that you intend to manage this place well. That's why you're asking for this information. And mind you, if you can't get this information, you'll be required to reverse engineer them. What I mean by that is you'll be required to actually start now to generate them going forward. And for some that you can measure, draw, and write and make up from this knowledge you can get, you need to put something down to represent what you have learned about the facility. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop here for now, and I'm going to see all the hands that are up so that I can allow you ask your questions, so that I can give a little more time to the question and answer sessions, okay? So bear with me. I'm still waiting for your hands to go up. A few hands are already up. Yes, just raise your hand up. I will unmute you when I call your name to speak. Once I unmute you, you go ahead and unmute yourself, okay? If I unmute you, then it will give you an opportunity to you to unmute yourself, okay? So let me start with Anayo. Anayo, please ask your question. You can unmute yourself now.
Okay, good evening, sir. I believe you can hear me.
Yes, I hear you. Good evening.
All right. You defined, you give us difference between commissioning and functioning. You said it's the process of checking for adequacy. That's commissioning. Why testing is for checking? I didn't get that aspect.
Functionality. Checking
Okay,
for functionality. That's testing. That something works, yes, is testing. Then that something is adequate as designed is so. So if you have an air conditioning system, for example, if the air conditioning cools at all, it's okay. That means it's tested okay. You've checked the wattage of the power, you've checked the amperage, you've checked the cooling, you've checked the gas level. Everything looks okay. That's testing, okay? But to commission means you now have to have people who use that space, use the space for what it's intended for, and tell you that they didn't feel too hot and they were not sweaty, that the AC was able to cool them. Then you have commission.
Okay. Okay.
All right, thank you. Akintayo Afolabi, please ask your question. No audio is coming through from you. You are not muted, but I'm not hearing anything. Okay, now you are unmuted. Go ahead. But your audio is still not coming through. Are you using a headset? We can't hear anything from you, Akintayo. So I'm going to go to Marcus Chibueze. Please ask your question. Marcus, unmute yourself.
Okay,
Yeah,
good evening, sir.
Good evening, welcome.
So, thank you. And when you've been handed over to a facility that did not even allow you to be part of the process of building it, you start seeing issues that are even beyond. How do you go about it, sir?
Okay, very good. So you were not part of the decisions that led to those issues, but you are now supposed to solve the issues, isn't it? So the point here is you will now need to ask the right questions, ask questions that will help you get the data and the information you need to assist with solutions. And if you can't get those information, the ones you can reverse engineer, the ones you can create, for example, as build drawings, you can easily create with some draftsmen and somebody.
Hello? Hello? Let's talk. My turn, you won't come for up. I'm not hearing my question. Okay, now hang off. I hang on, answer that question. Man, because I'm lost now. Why are not camera? Was it? Mother was left. Man, can I? But looks like the same house. Okay. On network, you have to duplicate some participants. Osaka Waka Wari.
Hello, guys.
Yes.
Sorry, I had a little disruption from my network. Had to switch data source.
Okay, sir, please just throw more lights. You went off during my turn.
Yes, I was going to continue with that. So you can't really do much about the past, now that you are taking it over, you have to ask questions now that shows that you understand what you should have, okay? And then begin to find solutions. What we are teaching this class for is that you don't allow past mistakes perpetuate themselves in the future. If there's another project coming up in your organization, try to get involved on time and don't wait for them to dump it on you for you to deal with the problems later. But for now, if you're an FM of a site that you didn't have any say in the delivery and you have issues, you still have a role. In fact, you basically have to own the role to provide solutions to those issues. Okay?
Okay, sir.
It's tough, but then that's our call, okay? All right, Olarewaju, you can ask your question now.
Good evening, sir. Hello, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, we hear you.
So, sir, based on what you said, that it is not the job of the, other people to bring set of people down before the FVEP we arrive at the site or take over the site. That there's need for the FM people to be brought in, not leaving one or two people that were part of the team that build the build to be part of the FM. But sir, I have seen in many cases that the practice that, like one of the sites that I've seen church that happen, the team that built that constructed the building, they left behind part of the team to be part of the FM team, and that has really helped them. They left behind maybe 2 or 3 personnel that they are very familiar with the site, very good, capable hands. So they now incorporate them into the FM team. So the FM team is a new company entirely. So that enables them to be able to do the site without any issue, because those guys, they know everything about the site. Then I've seen in some cases that most companies, they are now adopting a particular method now. I discovered that most of the construction companies, they have FM company as well. So most times, the building owners, they prefer to give the building maintenance or the facility issues to the same company that constructed it, based on the fact that they have FM company. They will give it to their FM company because they believe that naturally they are familiar with the site. So, and it's easy for them to take some of their guys and incorporate them into the FM team. So it's like, that is what most of these companies are practicing now. So when you made mention of that fact, and now I remember most of these instances that I've seen. So I just want to call your attention. So thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Lokoba. So the thing is this, if people work in construction and they take facility management training, they have become facility managers. They can move from construction to facility management at any time, right? But if you take people from construction, just because they know the building, to now become the facility managers, they may know the building, but they may not know the people. They may not have people skills to manage as facility managers, right? So it is best practice to make them facility managers in the process of, transitioning the building to facility managers. Now, if you now use the same people to manage the building after it has been built, okay, just make sure that they are going to be the ones to manage it forever. Because if anytime in the future you break paths from them and you try to get someone else into that building, you are going to have issues. Because to a large extent, all this documentation we are talking about that are needed in the building, they will not provide it because they believe it's in their head, and that's a problem. Okay. One, they will hold the owners and the users to ransom at some point that you cannot do without them. Don't follow that process. It's not a best practice. Even if I'm taking people from the construction team to stay on the project, I must make sure documentation is perfect to the point where a total stranger can manage that building as good as those who built it. I hope you understand. Okay. That is the best practice. So it's not relevant whether you're taking people from the construction or from outside to come and manage the building. The documentation must be perfect. Okay? Do not assume that you have anything in somebody's mind or somebody's brain that you are banking on. If that thing throws away tomorrow, you are stuck and your business still has 60 years to run.
Okay, sir.
All right?
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. So, Damilola, ask your question.
Well, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I actually want to take you back to one of the lectures we had. I'm sorry for that.
Go ahead.
But
Go ahead.
there was something you said about before you work for a company or before going for an interview, you should do a background check. And you said something about a background check you did in a particular company that interviewed you, and you found out that they were supposed to relocate to the United States before in 5 years time, as in like in 5 years before after you have done the interview, and you ask them what will happen to your career after 5 years.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, most companies now, they don't give that information out to the public. I don't know how someone can do the research to that extent of getting the main underground research for companies that you want to work for.
Okay, good question. So you may not be able to find out everything about a company, but all that is available to be known about that company, you should know it. Many of us are too lazy in doing research, and that's why I brought that point in. It's not everything you can find, but if you put effort into finding information, background information, you will get all that's available to guide your decisions, okay?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Sir.
Ismail Akim, please ask your question. Is Ishmael there?
Hello.
Yes, go ahead. We are with you.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I want to know that I actually said I will share your detail with my company later.
Okay.
Which actually, maybe I will start you update out.
Please, that will be fine. Thank you.
We really have to keep the effort. So,
all right. Thank you so much.
My question is the issue of handing over from a project, from the construction company to a facility manager. My company naturally, they are into building their construction company. So recently they had a facility manager, facility team as well. Now there is a project that they completed, one of the asset bank companies. I was one of the asset bank building. Yeah. So the guys finished the project. So they now look at it that the easiest way to manage the building, because the building is the headquarters of assets, is to absorb some of these guys. So especially when these guys are absorbed, we are still too busy, how will I call it, too big. When you call them for something, they keep on telling you stories. I was saying when they say this, we are not like this.
Yeah.
Seriously. So if there is an issue somewhere, especially the guy that is in charge of BMS, we have to look for where we just see go to the place that rectify the issue.
Okay.
So of recent, and I just recent with the facility manager. The manager actually, I'm the facility officer, while the manager has been in discussion for a while. But it's somebody that he told me that because he believes this guy can do it. So he doesn't care that this guy know more about the business. So he feels relaxed as well. So when you now ask the question, it looks as if he has tried to attack them. So in this case now,
let me just I perfectly understand your point, Akim. We must all apply the best practice of not depending on somebody because the person knows the building. Whatever anybody knows about the building you are paying for, that handover means that he documents everything he has in his head for you to take. Even if he's going to be part of the team, he cannot hold anybody to run, he cannot do shakara for you. That's the point we're trying to get to. Best practice is get all the information documented in a way that is clear to everybody, and ensure that before they end, everybody are trained enough to understand it like them that installed it from the onset. Okay? Any jobber, ask your question. This will be the last question.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Paul. Thank you for the weekly knowledge. Okay, quick one. I have like a 2-in-1 question that actually related. So defect liability period, something actually happened. So during that period, we had a problem, is a block of flats. So one of the flats, the person at one point left water running. So we now discover that there's no how we can isolate the flat in the middle, except to have to go to the rooftop, shut the entire water supply.
Yes.
You understand? So we do not have like individual water inlet. So there's this question that, okay, the project team should go ahead and fix it. And they're like, it's not part of the design. And we are
Definitely
saying
not part of the design.
Yes. So the response was that wasn't part of the design. That we are asking them to do something that is not in their own maybe contract. We are now saying they're not supposed to do this because we are maintenance guy. We are not supposed to do renovation. So we did not agree. So the second question.
You were wrong, completely wrong. They were right, 100% right.
Okay. Okay, let me quickly have this. So that same defect liability and warranty. Defect liability could be 6 months, while warranty is 1 year or thereabout. So how do we marry the two together, knowing fully well that the contractor might have left site and you have an extended warranty period of 1 year? So how do we reconcile such equipment if you want them to do 1 or 2 things about it?
Okay, fantastic. Excellent questions. First, the FM should have been involved from the design so that those valves that are required for individual units should have been designed into the design that was scoped and quoted for. Okay? If we have missed the FM at that point, that is a lost opportunity. The FM now needs to deal with it with the owner, no longer with the project team, even within different liability period, because that is not a defect. That's a design lapse because it did not involve FM. That's number one. Okay? Now, number two, during different liability period, only the things that were in the scope that they have done that broke or failed, that they will come back to rectify. Okay? And different liability period is very different from warranty period. Warranty period may extend beyond different liability.
Exactly.
Because warranty is it's an additional guarantee that something that was done well could fail, right? But different liability is that something was not done well, was probably patched up or managed at the onset. That's different liability. So you just observe and say, no, this was not done well, right? That's different liability. But in warranty, it was done well. We had it. We are using it, and then it fails. There's this insurance cover that the manufacturer will give. The controller can give and say, look, during this period, I can come and fix things. Now, so if you separate those two, you will now know that as a maintenance manager or facility manager, you must understand what the warranty conditions terms are, because there are some things you can do to nullify your own warranty, and there's nothing they can do about it. Okay, so understand the difference and know who to call. Different liability, contractor and the subcontractors, warranty, manufacturer that made that item.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. I'm seeing one more hand up, Engineer Marcos. Okay, let me take your question as the last one then.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. So if peradventure you did not, like you explained to me now, if we are not carried along from when they were doing the project or when they were starting the project, and you now start asking questions like, can I see the map or the drawing of this building? So at least you know where some lines go through, so where drainage are, where even the subway is. Are you on the wrong side?
No, you are right. That is exactly what handover means. I told you now that handover is documentation. You should have a long list of documents you are asking for to show that you have received a property. Property is not just the address and the keys. It's the documentation that tells you that you are taking over. So those lists you are talking about now is not by mouth. You have to have a professional list made that whoever is handing over to you must produce documentation that satisfies those requirements.
I don't know if you are sending. Wait a minute, me.
You didn't hear that?
Can you hear me, sir?
I hear you.
Okay, so I don't know if there's any kind of. I've not seen that kind of list before.
If you send the WhatsApp message for this training,
what are you looking out for?
And I send you the material, you will find at least two versions of lists that you can take items from in asking for what you should get from the manufacturers or construction teams. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Send a message of what you have learned to 080-220-20122. That's the official number that will distribute the materials by tomorrow. Anybody that has not sent in by this time tomorrow, it's over. That's how that one works. So you can see a list that you can use from inside the material for this class. I want to take one more person. Temple, please ask your question.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I want to really thank you for this eye-opening lecture you gave me today. It has really opened my eye to so many things, both the ones I've been doing right and the ones I've been doing wrong. Okay. I was handed over a 5-story building. It's a hospital. 2 years after it was built, the facility personnel that was there, to me personally, I think he really doesn't have in-depth knowledge of facilities management. So he did a shallow work and they handed over the building and left. So when the company was now looking for facility manager, a company referred them to me, and that was how I got there. So when I got there, I discovered there were several mistakes. I don't know if I should call it mistakes in quotes, but to me, there are things that were wrongly done.
Yeah.
So I had to start correcting some of them on my own with the owner of the place and the management of the place.
Yeah.
First thing I noticed was a ramp was built. After a while, the ramp separated from the main building.
Okay.
So, sir, that is, I want to take it gradually. I will take up to like 2 or 3 minutes, please. Pardon me for this. A ramp separating from the main building, and they are seeing it as not being a threat. And the people that built it have handed over and left. Who do I call? I was asking them who did this, who did this. Some persons were trying to cover up and all that. I spent over $1 million to sort that issue out. Another one was a HVAC, a 16 horsepower, that's central AC.
Yeah.
4 units of it was mounted on a slab on a 1st-story building outside the building. I noticed when I got there too, I was just doing a random check. I noticed that this thing is not supposed to be here. The weight alone is much. And the strength of the slab was getting weak. I started shouting, if we don't relocate this equipment, this section of the building might collapse.
Yeah.
The management refused. I had to meet with the chairman in person and gave him reasons why this had to be relocated, and he saw reasons with me. I also spent over $1 million to do that. So many defects. Where my concern is, you stated it clearly. These designers, the people that are designing, the people that are constructing, the people that are building, why don't they involve a facility personnel? Because I was telling them, if I knew this, I thought I was coming to a virgin building. If I knew of all these defects I listed that for you people, I wouldn't have come here because it's stress to me. It's giving me work. I say, if you tell any of those people that build this place to come and manage it, they will not. They will run away.
Exactly.
So why don't you get us involved? So sincerely, from my personal experience, I believe if you engage us on the process of the building construction, we have a whole lot of impact to make. Sure. Like you rightly said, they are after building as fast as possible, collecting their money and leave. But they are not considering the people, the person that will manage the place.
And
that's
those
where
who are going to use
the
it.
bulk of the work is.
Yeah.
Fine. That's where the bulk of the work is. These people do their things and go. I saw a gate that they installed with over 6 million naira. Sir, that gate is not working till today. I've done a remedial work. When it worked for like 2-3 months, it collapsed.
It dies off.
And the chairman have refused to remove it because he spent 6 million naira in it. So sir, most of these things too, we are not aware of them. We don't know this building. At times we are just called to come and manage the already built environment. I don't know how do we ensure that these planners, the construction companies, the designers get us in just to correct.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Mistake made, even in the electrical.
Super. I really appreciate that extensive analysis. That was fantastic, Temple. You see, facility management as a profession is young. Architects and designers are seen as the built environment experts. In fact, for many developers and owners of properties, facility management does not exist. They get to hear about facility management later, even after they have finished their investment with these designers and engineers. Okay, and these people only have, they don't have what I call a degradation curve mindset. When they build, they've not experienced their own building to the end. So they don't have that mindset. They don't have that reality of how the building degenerates over 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It is the FMs that have this history, that have this knowledge. So it is this knowledge that we can share, but we cannot overnight rise up into those positions. We have to start now, just the way Tempo explained now, begin to make inputs, show sound analysis, show that your inspections are bringing out valuable discoveries, valuable solutions, okay, for proactive planning and implementation. Then your voice will become heard over time. It is what makes you to grow is the fact that over time, your analysis have been found to be correct, and then they begin to give you more opportunity. So thank you very much, Tempo, for that. All right, thank you, everybody. I hope we've had a good time in today's class. I'm going to just remind us that for all of those who want to join the FM Mastercraft Diploma, go ahead and sign up, max-migold.com/FMMC. Just click on the training tab and register. It's September 8th, and that's not too far away. We just have July and August in between. So you can start doing a flexible payment towards your tuition so that you will not postpone it again to 2021. This is the time to position yourself. The economy is going to be in a boom session very soon. And you don't want to be the one that stays in the same salary level or the same income level that you are through this period, or the one that stayed out of work and saying, I don't have money through this period. When the economy comes back into a boom, please be ready. Okay, be ready to take advantage. And that's exactly the opportunities we are giving to you with the FM Mastercraft Diploma. All right, so thank you so much, everybody. I wish you a very good evening. See you next Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Nice.
God bless you, Mr. Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Nice job.
Thank you.
God bless you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.